Good morning everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Now, I was having a think about the whole Vlogmas thing, and I've had a bit of a discussion with some people in comments too about how, Vlogmas sometimes it's forced and all the rest of it. And I think the reasoning that I wanted to do Vlogmas was because it pushes me a little bit, because vlogging, as in, intimate, personal vlogging is really not my thing. And I was thinking further on that, like I was reflecting on it, because the first year I did YouTube, I did Vlogmas, and I did pretty much every day shooting, and we did a whole bunch of crafts every day and things like that, and it was fun, and it really helps with the algorithm on YouTube, which is always a concern. Even as much as I do a lot of this for fun, the algorithm is still a concern because I have to be earning an income to keep going. And so daily videos is really good for the algorithm and things like that. Now, I think the thing is, though, that when I did it that first year, it was fairly intimate because I only had a really small following, some regulars that I spoke to, and each video wasn't getting huge throughput. And I think the problem now is that I have a lot larger audience. Now, obviously it's still not particularly large in comparison to a lot of people, but it's large compared to that. And I get a lot more judgment now. And vlogging means showing a bit more of our actual life, and people hate a lot of things about my life. I know there's heaps of you out there who watch every video and who comment and are lovely, and this is real life and they love that. But sometimes those negative comments really sting versus all the positive ones. And so I think I've been curating things a lot more lately just to try and avoid those comments, or addressing them before they say them and things like that. And I don't want that to be the whole thing, but at the same time it's going to be, because this is my life that I'm sharing. And anyway, so I got my new camera, which I'm using now, and we'll see how the footage looks. But so I got the DJI Pocket Osmo 3, and the plan is that I'll be able to do things like vlog for the shopping and stuff like that. So what I'm going to try and do, and use telling you this as a little bit of a force of doing that, is that I'm going to try and do some daily vlogging from now until after the grocery haul. So it is Sunday morning at the moment, and I'm going to head off for the groceries next Tuesday and come back on the Friday. I've got a whole bunch to do over those 4 days. And the plan is to do some vlogging like this with limited editing, real life, clip backwards and forwards with very limited editing, and show you those things. I still have some food and stuff to share as well. I made some sugar-free Kahlua yesterday, and I want to see how that goes. It's sitting now for the flavors to do what they need to do, because neither Darryl and I are much drinkers, but we do like some tasty stuff every now and again. And Christmas, we normally make a couple of cocktails, so we're trying to do within scope of what we can, and all that sort of thing. So there'll be some bits and pieces of the daily life. Because it's Sunday, some of the kids will be going to church today, which means that the house will be a little bit quieter to try and get some of this done. And I've now finished all the orders too. Well, there's like a couple that have come in since I finished, but on Friday I posted out pretty much every single order, another 20 odd packages. So there's that not hanging over my head now too, and I can clean up. So where all the packing's been and where all the excess stock and stuff is, now I can clean all that up. So that's going to make me feel better too. So anyway, I'm going to see how I go, and we'll go from there. So it is 6 a.m-ish on Sunday morning. I'm about to start making coffee, and yeah, we'll just see how it pans out, and we'll start pulling out the Christmas craft more for the kids now that I don't have to do all the other work, and because there'll be some home and some not today, then that's a good time to start. So I'm going to start the morning off with a coffee though. Now, we've been using the pure cream because it's no emulsifiers or anything, but it's really expensive, and we found this at Foodworks, and the thickener in it is beef gelatin, which is a good choice, and it's less than 1 gram of carbs per serve, and it is 75 cents per 100 versus the pure cream, which is $1.50 per 100 here in in town, which is, where we have to buy things when we've run out during the 8-week trip. Now, there's a few things that I'm really going to have to buy as different for different quantities this month that we haven't realised how much we go through. Cream is one of those things. So Costco has the 2-litre creams really cheap for like $11 per 2 litres, which is really cheap. But the problem is that we then have to store it. So you can freeze it. You can like let some out of it and then freeze it, which is great, except that you have to have freezer space to be able to do that. And I'm not entirely sure how we'll go with freezer space. So being able to buy this one at only 75 cents per 100, just the standard black and gold with only the beef gelatin and less than 1 gram of carb, will be very beneficial. Because we use these cups, these were from Costco, these were a really good price. They're the ceramic lined ones, they're my favourite. I have 2 of these, Darryl has 2 of these. Because we use these, it means that when we put the cream and stuff in there, we can just give it a shake, we do have one of those little whizzy sticks, but they keep on getting broken. So being able to shake it in here means that the texture of this cream shouldn't be an issue. While I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, I might go over that Keto Kahlua. So I'll put some footage in here, and since I've got a mic that goes on my chest, I can walk around and discuss it while the camera's going, even though I'm not showing through the camera, which was the beauty of this idea of this camera too. So I did a bit of Googling about sort of the best type of alcohol to have when you want no sugar, and one of the things was, straight alcohols like vodka and stuff like that. But we don't drink to get drunk. We drink because alcohol is kind of has some nice flavors to it when you have the right alcohol, and a little bit of a tipsy over Christmas is nice too. But we have 6 children, there's no way we're getting intoxicated, so we normally drink things like, I make a Toblerone cocktail that has Frangelico and honey and things like that in it, but obviously Frangelico and all those, they're fairly high carb. So I looked up and I found this sugar free alternative to Kahlua. So I bought some nice vodka, some Absolute, which is my favorite. And first thing you have to do is you have to brew some coffee. So I brewed some coffee in my pour over really, really strong. It's 2 cups of that, and you add a cup of filtered water to that as well. And then you're going to bring that to a simmer with 2 cups of allulose in there. So allulose is the best choice of sweetener because it doesn't recrystallize. You can use other sorts, but you may need to warm up the liquid to get the crystals to dissolve again. So allulose is the best one for that, for not doing that. So I bought some allulose on iHerb so that I'd have it purposely for a couple of these different ingredients that it's the most highly recommended one for. So 2 cups of allulose with the 2 cups of strong brewed coffee and a cup of water, and bring that up to a nice simmer and let it simmer for a few minutes so that we've got that allulose dissolved really well. And then you're going to add that to 2 cups of vodka into a jar, and then you're going to let it sit. So theoretically you could drink it straight away, but if you let it sit for a little bit longer, it's going to mellow that flavour just a touch. I also added 2 tablespoons of vanilla in there as well, which would be, personal preference. Now, I would normally make like a Bailey's type thing as well, and I reckon I probably could try and work on a sugar-free one, but the Kahlua was the big thing because we're going to buy some sugar-free soft drink for the Christmas week, and I like Kahlua and Coke, I like Kahlua and lemonade, so Schweppes has sugar-free lemonade that's, it's good for sugar-free. Like, obviously sugar-free soft drinks aren't the most ideal thing, but at the same time, we're going to have some treats over Christmas, and it is what it is. We're going to, enjoy those few things that we don't have the rest of the time. And the lemonade's quite nice, the Schweppes lemonade, and it normally goes on sale around Christmas time. They come in packs of 10 tins and normally goes on sale for half price around Christmas. And Darryl really enjoys Coke Zero, so I will buy him a carton of that as well, which normally goes on sale around Christmas too. So we can have the Kahlua with either of those, which will just be really nice. And we could make a mudslide too, potentially, with some cream and some Kahlua and some sort of a sugar-free chocolate. So, it was just to have options. So my coffee, I do pour over coffee because it doesn't use any power, and we like the the smoothness of it. I'd love a coffee machine. Like I'd really like a pod coffee machine, because I really enjoy the coffee that comes out of them, but they draw a real lot of power to heat up enough to push through the pods. And it's first thing in the morning that we generally drink coffee, which is when power is a little bit less available. So we found pour over coffee, and it works really well. I get the papers cheap off Temu actually, and I got the ceramic ones. One of them was from Alternative Brewing and the other one was actually from Temu. We have 2 of these, and the coffee I just buy fairly cheap coffee. It's Coles or Costco, and we have a coffee grinder that my mum gave me because she used to run a little cafe, and it was from the cafe. So we've been lucky that we can grind our own beans and do the pour over, and it works really well. We don't drink any sweeteners in our coffee because we did Whole30 for like 90 days of ages ago, and when we were on Whole30 we weaned ourselves off all added sugar to things like this. That's when we moved to coconut cream as well, because we went off all dairy. So we had coconut cream in our coffee and no sweeteners. So we're still having no sweeteners, but now having cow's milk cream. So coffee done. Now I do one of these first thing in the morning, and this is my coffee for the day. It stays hot in here, so I drink this all day through to like lunchtime, and then I make another one about 5:30 in the afternoon. That is my evening one. So this one will be my coffee for the whole day. It is, I just checked the forecast, and it's supposed to rain for the next few days. It's lightly spitting now, and it's supposed to rain for the next few days. So I have some tomato plants that are really not looking great because they've been in pots for far too long, but we ran out of issues. Like I had issues with space of where to put them and stuff like that. So I think I'm just going to put them in this bed. I'm going to crowd them out a little bit because they're not looking real great, and see what survives and what doesn't. And if some survive, then that's great. And then if they don't, they don't. They're all dwarf tomatoes. So what I can do is do like a Florida weave down each side of this bed if they take off, to keep them out of the way. And the middle of the bed only has dahlias in it at the moment. So I want them established this year and create some bulbs. Whether we get flowers out of them this year, I'm not real sure, because I started them from seeds. So I'm not sure how that works when you do dahlias from seeds. I know that they will create their own bulbs eventually, but I'm not entirely sure how long it takes, or whether you get flowers the first year or what. But they're looking really good, and I'm happy with that, because I'd really like to start having a collection of my own dahlias that I can, make. I knocked a green guajillo off the plant when I was putting a stake in there. That plant's doing really well. It's good. So I badly need to pull some weeds, which I will see if I can get some done once I get these tomatoes out. But I've got far too many tomatoes for the space. So I think I'm just going to really cram them in here for the moment, and then thin them out, see which ones take off and which ones don't, because at the moment they all look really sad, because they've just been in these tiny little pots for too long and not watered enough, I think. So we will see how we go, and I will, so this is the bed that I'm going to put them in. And these are the tomatoes. So see, they're just, I have to figure out how to get this. There we go. This is the bed, and these are the dahlias that have come up, which is great. And then these are the tomatoes, and they're all a little bit curly, all a little bit stunted. So I'm just going to put them in. I've got another tray inside, so I'll bring the other tray in out as well. The other thing I need to check, camera's going to take a little bit of, because you have to change the direction of the lens. It's going to take a little bit. So the other thing is the zucchini. So as you can see, nothing is being pollinated in here. And I think part of that is the cage and the crowding. But I also haven't seen any bees. And apparently there is not many around. So what I'm doing is I'm out here early enough to pollinate some, if there is any. But it looks like I don't have any that need pollinating at the moment. Of course, when I'm out here, there's just so many that haven't been pollinated that just need chopping off. And some of these zucchini plants are very much doing a climbing trellis thing, and so it's not going to work real well in this bed with the cover. It's way overgrowing the covers, and I'm not I don't know, maybe I just put too much in here, but normally this is what I sort of do in a bed, but it's just doing really well, but I'm also not getting much in the way of any sort of fruit from it because it's doing too well in an enclosed space. So just another experiment. So this one here will need pollinating probably tomorrow, and we've got lots of male flowers at the moment, but that's the only fruit there on this one that needs pollinating, and it won't open until tomorrow probably. I need to come in and trim off all the unpollinated fruit. I meant to do that the other day, and I was going to use what was usable on them, but I forgot. So I've missed this one down here. It's too far gone to be hand pollinated, and doesn't look to be, again, we've got some that weren't pollinated here, but nothing fresh that needs pollinating at all either. So that's unfortunate considering how many male flowers I've got open suitable for pollinating. But so we haven't actually got a zucchini yet out of all this, even though it's as lush as it is. And with the covers, I'm guessing I needed to plant less so that we could force them to sort of grow along the bed because of the lack of space. So I'll have to remember that for next time. So this was fine. The amount was fine for when I had the beds open, but I think I've got 5 plants in here. But with the cover, I'd say I need to, because it's spreading. If I could get them to spread, maybe I could only fit 2, maybe 3 plants in this whole bed, which seems a waste. But if they're, when a zucchini's doing well, you get heaps of fruit. So don't know, this is all a bit of a learning curve again this year with the covers and that. It's like the cucumbers. I had hoped that the cucumbers would sort of just spread out along the ground, but instead they just are attempting to escape. So we have to figure these things out. And I haven't really seen much in the way of the bush rats yet this year either. So we went to all this effort to cover these beds, and yet the beds that haven't been covered don't appear to have been touched as yet, which is, pros and cons to that. It's great that they haven't been touched, but at the same time, were the covers for the beds a little unnecessary this year? But anyway, it's always a learning curve. So I just planted all those dwarf tomatoes along the edge here, and I'm going to go grab the other tray and plant along the other edge. As I said, they're far too close together, but they're all looking pretty sad. We'll let the rain hit them, we'll see how they go, and then I'll thin them out to every second plant, but I'll assess which ones do the best to do that. So that's my gardening efforts for today. Now I have to figure out how to get this lid closed again, because it's all escaping. I might have to grab a child to give me a hand. Alrighty, so it is 10:30. I just done a whole bunch of admin work and stuff like that on the computer. I got all those tomatoes planted out earlier. It's gotten really hot really fast, which is unfortunate for getting those. I put those tomatoes out thinking it was going to be a bit of a cooler day. The sun's hitting pretty hard now, so I'll probably need to go out and water around the base of them, or they'll never make it, so we'll need to do that. I left the zucchinis open to dry out for a bit too, and came and did some admin and stuff. So now I'm in the kitchen. I'm going to make some dough up for the kids, some bread dough for the kids, and get that sorted. And then Darryl and I will probably have the same thing we had for lunch yesterday, which I recorded yesterday. So I will probably put the clip in there of that, or maybe that will require editing, and we're trying to avoid editing, aren't we? So maybe I'll just show you snippets of it as I do it again. But it's just the new camera and everything else, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, and we're just going to see how we go with today. I pulled the footage out under the computer to make sure it looked okay. It looks fine, so that's good. But first up, I'm going to make some bread for the kids. Okay, let's see how we go. So since we don't have any kids here at the moment, I'm going to talk while I'm doing it to see which is something I don't normally get to do, but it saves me on editing. So shall see how we go. Now I might make the kids the little mini baguettes again. They seem to go down well. So I'm just going to pull my book out with my bread recipes and pull the French bread recipe out. Now I did use this yesterday and it hasn't been washed, so it's got a little bit of dough left in it. I'm just going to give this a wash. Alrighty, all good. So now I've got some water in the kettle here, which will be slightly, yeah, just not quite tepid, which is fine in this temperature. And we'll do, what do? We do 600 grams of water. Put that aside. We want about 20 grams of yeast. Now it's quite warm today, so we can be a little under if need be. So we might go just about the 15 mark. We're going to put a little bit of sugar in here for that yeast to eat. Now this is one of the biggest problems with my kitchen at the moment, is that nothing is easy access. So I need to find a measuring cup or something, which was over in the other sink, of course. So everything I do just is a lot of walking around and finding things. Everything is at a distance, which is why I really want this kitchen sorted, because it's really driving me nuts. So we've got about 50 grams of sugar in there for that yeast to help it rise quicker. We want a bit of salt. I think my salt is empty, so I need to get the tub. So we fill that back up from the 10 kilo bag that I've got from Costco, and we just want around about 20 grams of salt. Now I never have a problem adding my salt to my yeast. It's never been an issue for me. I go through yeast pretty quickly, so it's not like it sits around for any significant span of time, but you know, it is what it is. And then we want 100 grams of fat or oil. I'm looking for my olive oil, and of course I don't appear to have any here either, so I'm going to have to go up onto the house to grab the olive oil. Alrighty, olive oil. New container, and we want 100 grams of that. Now you could use ghee or any sort of other fat here. Olive oil is the simplest thing for me to use. And so then we're going to add a kilo of flour. So using the flour out of my big tubs. And then we're going to get it into the mixer. Of course, it's not plugged in because I've got limited plug-in points and obviously had to use it for something else. So we'll plug this in.
It's 10:27 a.m.
And we'll start on low. Once it starts struggling a little bit, I'm going to turn it up to medium. Alrighty, once it's all climbing the thing, we're good. I'm going to stick it in my dough container like normal. I'm going to oil it slightly. Yep. The twins are at home today and they have asked me to make them some popcorn. So we're going to put a bit of rice bran oil in the bottom. And then we'll light the gas. And put about a cup and a half of popcorn seeds. And coat it with oil, and we'll put a lid on. There we go. It's just a bit of condensation dripping.
Because
It's the heat from it. Yep, as it pops, it creates some water, and then there's condensation on the lid. And the lid's, because the lid's a bit bigger than the pot, it's dripping off the sides.
yeah, so dripping onto the vent and into that fire.
Mhm.
So you wait until it stops popping.
Mhm. Oops.
If you get some of that stuff in your eyes, would it hurt?
Oh, it's hot.
Like, but, wanna know something?
What?
The blind eye of it is on the other side.
Ah.
So,
We use a bit of ghee, and if we put it in the pot while it's nice and hot, then it will melt from the heat of the pan.
you think lemon food's okay?
Yeah.
The fan. My stomach hurts. Probably because you're drunk with all that water drink.
Oops.
One got under the
I know, I'm spilling it everywhere, aren't I?
Yeah.
So we get all that ghee melted in there, and then we have chicken salt from Costco that we've been using, which is almost out, so we need to get another one. I do make my own seasoning salts, but we're out of those as well, and the chicken salt is quite nice. Not that Darryl and I are eating popcorn at the moment, which is a bummer because it's one of my favourite snacks. But we are sticking to the diet for the moment.
And the popcorn's for us.
And the popcorn is for, yes, Lorcan and Orpheus, because they requested that I made some. Do you want to grab a bowl?
And Surreal.
And Surreal, yeah. Going to grab bowls?
That looks tasty.
Off my bench,
That's
please.
a lot of ghee. Oh yes, Mom. Last night I was telling everyone, I was telling Mom everyone that I know names there.
There you go.
Thank you. Put the camera here, Lorcan.
I actually just looked up the carb count on popcorn out of curiosity, and apparently there's only 5 net carbs per cup of popcorn. So whilst that's, not great, it means that I can sit here and have just a small handful and enjoy that little small handful and not feel too guilty about it. So that's kind of nice when I sit here and make it for everyone else. So I will have just a little tiny bowl, maybe a little glass bowl, just one of my little serving bowls, not overindulge, and just have that. And then, 5 net carbs. It's not a small amount, but it's not huge either. Next thing we need to do is the dough. So the dough is already pretty much doubled. It's very warm today, so I need to shape that. I'm going to grab a little bit of flour because it looks like it's going to be sticky, which is quite common when you're proofing dough in the heat and humidity. And yeah, it's a bit tacky, so I'm just going to lightly oil my hands as well and sprinkle a little bit of flour, and we're going to scoop it out. This was just a fairly small batch because I'm just doing it for the kids for lunch. So I'm just going to grab my scraper and use it to get some of this flour underneath the dough so that it has a little bit of a coating on it, and then we're going to break it up. Now, normally I weigh this, but I'm not overly concerned today because it's just for these little mini baguettes. So I'm just going to guesstimate this one, and we will do sort of this one into 8, so we might do 16 all up. Just like that. It doesn't matter if they're a little odd size because we're going to be doing them as sort of like the mini baguettes, single serve. So that's all good. So I'll divide this one up into 8 as well. Just like that. And I'll get these going and then I'll start on lunch for Darryl and I as well. Okay, I might grab a bit more flour. And all I'm going to do is I flatten them out into a rectangle-ish shape. Doesn't have to be exact. And I just use my fingers to get it into sort of a rectangle. I take the top down, the bottom up, clean up the edges and then pinch it together. Super simple. Like that. And then this dough is very soft because of the heat, so that's all that needs to be done. Some will end up looking a lot neater than others because some just will because I'm not being pedantic about it. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of semolina on the baking tray and then I'm just going to place it straight on the tray and then repeat. Get them all on there. Now the dough is very soft because of the heat, which makes shaping it a little bit more difficult too because it's springing back on itself. But as I said, I'm not overly concerned in these ones because they're purely for the kids and the kids don't care. So we're just rolling it up, pinching all the edges together, neatening up the ends, and if they blow a seam it's not a big deal because it's for the kids, so they do not care. And just add a bit more flour if needed, but the more flour you add, the harder it is to get it to stick to itself when you roll it. So sometimes you have to be a little bit thoughtful on that too and not add too much flour and just deal with it being slightly tacky because too much flour and when you're rolling it like this it won't stick together properly and you'll end up with more blowouts, but also it's harder to get to shape into a nice roll because it's pulling away from itself. So there's that balancing act of enough flour that you're not fighting the sticky, but not so much that it will stop sticking to itself and you can't roll it into a shape. Of course, I could just put these into rounds or whatever, but it's French bread dough, so it's nicer in that style. But, it doesn't really matter. Dough is dough, and whatever shape it's in, the kids don't really care. And honestly, it's probably more for my benefit than theirs that I bother with different shaping. I do tend to avoid doing loaves, though, because I hate trying to judge the proof in the dough pan. And if you go too far, then it sinks when you cook it. And if you don't go far enough, then it doesn't sort of get fluffy. And loaves are really something that I know, but see, a lot of people like them better. So, it's everyone's preference. But I would much prefer to shape into buns or these little baguettes or something than to do a loaf of bread. I also I think I've mentioned before, that I prefer that when you have it in something like this, then you're not cutting open the whole loaf, whereas if you've got a loaf of bread and you cut the end off it, then that affects the freshness of the whole loaf. No matter what you do, I tend to put it face down on a wooden board afterwards, which helps to keep it moist, but as soon as you've cut the heel off the bread, you end up with drier bread because it's just how it works. Whereas if you have it in individual pieces like buns or these sorts of baguette type things, then each individual one has its own level of moisture and freshness that doesn't get changed until you cut it open. Of course, they're still fresher the same day, but anyway, I'm going to keep doing these and then I'll show you when I'm done. So nice and puffy within only 15 minutes. All I'm going to do is score the top of each one and then get them in the oven. The score will just help that if it's going to explode from somewhere, theoretically it'll explode at the score at the top rather than underneath where I haven't pulled a seal appropriately. So that's the only purpose of the scoring, and then we get these in the oven. Right, and now lunch for Darryl and I. Actually recorded making this yesterday, but I'm going to, instead of editing that with voiceover, I'm just going to make it again. So doing the chaffles. So I've got 250 grams of shredded cheese here. Just got mozzarella. And then I've got leftover taco seasoned mince from dinner the other night that I'm going to mix through like this. And then I've also got some pickles. I need a board and a knife. So I've got a board, knife, and I'm going to dice up one of these nice and small to have in the mix. And these are reminiscent of Big Mac chaffles is the idea, but really they're just what they are, which is chaffles with some sort of a loaded chaffle. There was a few different recipes around for it and a few different ways of like layering it and stuff. Most didn't use anything in with the cheese mix, like they layered cheese and then the meat and stuff and that it was effort and didn't feel like it would be as nice as mixing it all together. And then I decided that I would prefer to make them like normal chaffles as well, with the almond flour and the xanthan gum, so that they were sort of soft and more like toast than crispy like chips, and then we could have them with salad and stuff. That was the idea, and it was really nice yesterday. So I'm going to do the same thing today. Now I need to find a measuring spoon. Now 250 grams of cheese is just what I picked as a good amount because it's half a bag, but it works out to be around about 3 cups. And so we do 2 tablespoons of almond meal per cup of cheese, and I lost count then, I think that's right. And then we want a tiny bit of xanthan gum. Where is the xanthan gum gone? It's been moved under the shelf. All right, so we use around about half a teaspoon per cup of cheese. And then we mix this through. Now, you have to mix that through before you add your wet, because the xanthan gum clumps up, which is partly what it's supposed to do. But it means that if you add your wet before then it causes issues. So I've got 3 or 4 egg whites here from something I cooked yesterday. One of the custard ice creams or something I kept the egg whites for. So that's what I've had them in the fridge. And I kept them to make this for lunch today. So then we're just going to mix the egg whites in, and it will come together a little bit. Not completely, but it will sort of become a little bit more sticky and a little bit more amalgamated to a more of a dough type sort of a thing, without really changing too much. So I'll give you a look. I'll get it all blended together. And it's all nice and evenly split then, evenly mixed up. So just like that, all sort of just sticky, but not changing the overall texture of each item, just a little bit sticky. So that's what we want. So we're going to then, I'm going to pull the waffle makers out. So we finished this. That needs to go in the bin. Finish with this. Needs to go in the dishes. Alright, let's grab the little waffle makers, which I put up here, and they could do with a wipe over. They're a bit greasy from yesterday. So let's get them slightly warmed up, and then I'll be able to wipe any excess grease off them. before we start today's food. So I've got a clean cloth and I'm just going to give them all a wipe over from yesterday's mess. These are just the mini waffle makers from Kmart. They're only $15 each. They do have some Christmas themed ones at the moment, which is tempting, though, you know, it's only Christmas at one point of the year. So, but, you know, you can still eat Christmas shaped waffles at other times of the year. And it'd be kind of fun for Christmas Day and stuff. So I've got both waffle makers here just heating up. They got lights on top. When the lights go off, they're hot. We start that. So what we served these with yesterday and what we're going to do again is some lettuce and tomato. And then I made a mayo with some of the juice from the pickles. Now I'm using canned pickles because I just don't get cucumbers very often. The ones that we are getting are only a handful at a time and the kids eat them. So I'm going to grab the lettuce and tomato while they heat up, and then we will cut that up as well. All right, so the lights have gone off, so we're going to put the mix in them. Now I have this little bit of mix left there that I didn't realise. I got that clean cloth. Just going to, I did wipe these out yesterday, but missed that bit, which is fine. Okay, now I'm going to spray them with a little bit of oil, just to help, though the cheese is pretty greasy anyway. And I found that this ice cream scoop was a good size for nice heaped ice cream scoop, was a good size to spread out. So just going to do that and that, spread it out a little bit, and then close the lid. Just like that, and then we'll wait for the lights to go off and I'll bring you back. Now I did find that you had to leave them a little bit longer than the light because they were sticking really badly to the top, and they are doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift it slightly, put it back down and see if that works. If not, I just scraped it from the top, sort of pushed it back down to the bottom, and they stuck together as they cooled anyway. So we'll just see how we go with that. Let's see how we're doing. It's still sticking. I couldn't be bothered trying to wait, so all I'm going to do is just let it peel off from the top, which is pretty easy to do because it's not actually sticking. It's weird the way it does it. I've never had it happen with the normal chaffles, only the stuffed ones. And then I just push it back down and then peel it off, and as it cools, the cheese is going to set back up and hold itself together. But it's annoying that it does this. I'm not entirely sure why, but we will try and find some sort of correlation the more we make. And see, this one isn't coming off very well at all, just because I'm filming it. That'll be why I'm filming it, so it can't possibly go right. And you want to make sure I don't drop that lid on my own hand because that would hurt a lot, and I don't want to damage the surface of the waffle maker with the knife either. But see, it's, yeah, we push it together like that, maybe flip it upside down, and as it cools it's going to end up in one piece anyway. It did last time. So let's just move that. This one's done the same, see? So I don't know what it is, maybe it needs to have more in there. So maybe I'll put a little bit more in the next one. That one came off the top easier at least. And then we will just peel that one off like that, flip it upside down. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? Like, they look perfect when you do that. So I'll just keep on going and keep doing them. All right, so we ended up with the 6 chaffles out of that the 250 grams of cheese. Realistically, we probably only need 2 each. The rest can be eaten or not. And then I've got some lettuce, some nice crisp lettuce pieces here. So all we're going to do is tear that up a bit on the plate, and then a tomato each as well. And then we've basically got the essence of our BLT, sorry, not BLTs, Big Macs. So cheese and mince and the pickles and stuff in here, lettuce and tomato, and then this mayo is mayo that I made using the pickle juice. So that's Now, I'm finding this kind of meal super satisfying with a bit of crunch, salad, the cheese and the meat and all the rest. So it could do with a little bit more meat on it potentially, but this is lunch, not dinner. But I find that having this little bit of salad or something is really making meals more well-rounded for me. I don't think the whole straight carnivore thing is really for me. I think I definitely need this. The problem is that things like lettuce and tomato we can't get all the time, and it's pretty expensive to buy in town. We are looking at setting up some hydroponics again, which means I might be able to grow some more lettuce regularly, some greens. I've got silver beet, but silver beet's not as nice like this. I prefer silver beet cooked. So we will just see how we go. But this is a very filling meal, and both in substance but also in filling the want to eat food. So that's what we've done there. The kids' bread rolls should be ready to come out too. And there is the bread rolls done for the kids. So they can have those with there's a bit of lettuce and tomato, there's some ham, there's bacon, there's eggs, whatever they want to have those with. And there'll be a meal for now and some left over to have with dinner, maybe, depending on what we have for dinner. But they're nice and soft, brown on the bottom. Yum, I'd like to be eating them. So that's lunch done for today. Now I'm going to go sit down and eat, and then I will figure out what else we're doing for the rest of the day. Righty, so it is nearly 4 o'clock. I've been a bit slack and not doing a whole lot in the last little bit. Computer work, admin work, sitting around. So the kids did a whole bunch of air dry clay as their craft for today. I'll take you over and show you a bit of that. And while they were doing that, I did whatever I needed to do. It is very, very warm today, 38, 39, so pretty bad. And so they did the air dry clay, but they're on computers now. They had to swim in the pool and things like that. So I've come out to the kitchen. I've got one of the 5 kilo bags of chicken tenders that are mostly defrosted, so I'm going to do something with those because I defrosted them. Let me show you their clay. Okay, so we've got Laura's, who you haven't seen for a little while, and we've got Lamington. So they're all both. Lamington's on the patio at the moment because the garden where we've been putting her, there just isn't a whole lot of shade. So at the moment she gets locked down here on the grass section of the patio. But they get along really well, which is lovely. They sit with each other and they just smooch like they just did, and they just lounge, lazy, both of them. When we feed the chickens and stuff, we take Lamington outside for a run, and she goes out into the paddock of a morning and things like that. But sheep are pretty lazy inherently, so she's quite happy to just sit here and chew her cud. The clay kits that I bought the kids, so I bought them these like food trucks, and there was a cake shop one and a dinosaur one. So they've made these little clay, air dry clay dinosaurs, and there was a little truck that they made out of it as well, which I didn't realise was part of it, which is pretty cute. So it's got these little trucks and these dinosaurs and some stand-up props. And I bought a bunch of extra coloured air dry clay for them as well, so they could do all sorts of things. But it was pretty cool. It had instructions on how to make the different things that they did. So I'll get some footage of the food truck as well. It's inside, but they did all this sorts of instructional type stuff to create the food and stuff for each one. I've got this 5 kilo bag of chicken tenders to work with. Now, the worst part about summer and dealing with stuff in the kitchen is the flies. I've got some natural fly spray running, but they still stick around. So when I'm doing bulk food in summer, it's really hard, bulk meats. This obviously has leaked a little bit on the outside, which is why they're on it. Once I get it in a bowl, it'll be different too. But flies at this time of year, horrible. Now, one of the first marinades I'm going to use is this shish kebab marinade. It came in the hampers, so I've got 2 jars of it here. So I'm going to use this Tupperware container, and I'm going to put some in here and see what I can get that's... Yeah, none of it's solid frozen. It's just some of it still has some ice in it, which is fine. So we're just going to separate the tenderloins and put it all in this container as quickly as possible, so we don't have it out at room temp for too long in this heat. So, and we are trying to deter the flies from landing on any of the actual meat as well, of course. So I'm just breaking the tenderloins up into pieces. I'm surprised the cat hasn't headed back over here, because normally at the first sign of chicken she would be
Oh no, she is. She's under my feet. Dolores is big for begging for raw chicken, and I'm a sucker and generally give her some. So, of course, she's going to come back for more when I give it to her, isn't she? So we're going to fill this up mostly because I got those 2 jars worth, and it's a fair whack of marinade. So now, when I bought these, the 5 kilo tenders, I sort of thought about how far they'd go was a lot further than they do, because when you're talking tenders and cooking them like tenders, then everyone has a few each, and there's 8 of us, and Darryl and I have more than a few if we're not having any, like if this is the main meal, which it was in a couple of the other bags that we did. So they really don't go that far. So we're probably only going to split this into 2 separate marinades, so sort of half the bag for these. So let me do that, and then I'm going to get that sealed, and I'm going to rinse my hands. Probably going to have to break the seal. My hands just do not work well enough to open jars. It's unfortunate, it means that I can't reuse these lids, but it's just the way it is. My hands and wrists are just not good enough, and Darryl's inside, and I could call him and he would come, but so let me find a spatula, and we're just going to tip all this marinade over. Now this was a fairly standard sort of marinade. I thought it sounded quite nice. Carb counts on it aren't too bad. 9.5 grams per 100. There's how many grams are in this jar? 165. So there's probably 15 grams of carbs per jar, but we're going that across 2.5 kilos of chicken. So I don't feel bad about Darryl or I eating this. And yeah, the ingredients were good. It was like tomato and onion and garlic and cinnamon, and sort of a nice, almost the base to my butter chicken is what it sounds like. So we'll get that on there, and we'll get this through. Oh, that marinade is quite warm because of course it lives on my open pantry shelves, and it's really hot today. So that was a bit of a weird temperature change between the chicken and the marinade. Now I reckon I could fit some more chicken in here with that marinade. There's plenty in there. So if I get a little bit of extra marinade in the chicken in the bag, it's not that big a deal. So well, it's coating it quite well. I might even go more. Like, I don't think I could do the whole bag, but I don't think the whole bag would fit in this bowl. Otherwise, I possibly could have stretched both jars of marinade to the whole 5 kilos, which would have been neat. Because it doesn't really matter that it's all in the same marinade, because it depends on how you serve it as to what that marinade tastes like anyway. So like if I do some in risotto for the kids, or if I do some with sour cream and stuff for Darryl and I to have dipped into, or even I can still even crumb this with the marinade on it. So, you know, the marinade's not limiting the use of it. All it's doing is giving it flavour and potentially a bit of moisture. My hands, it's very cold. Ouch. Alright. I think that's probably all I can comfortably fit in this container, though it does have a domed lid. But I think I'll leave it at that. Let me wash my hands again. Alrighty, so we'll put the lid on this one, and this can go back in the fridge for a bit, and then I'll come back with another container to marinate the rest. Alrighty, we have another container. Let's get the rest of this chicken in there. Less time sitting around, the better. break it all up as I go in. I actually have another 5 kilo bag that's defrosting at the moment as well, because they were both stuck together and I couldn't get them apart. But I really wanted to do some smoked. I just didn't get to it today, so maybe that's what I'll do with the other half, is just put a little bit of a dry rub on them and then get them into the smoker running low for about an hour and see how they turn out. So we will. Alright, so this lot here, what are we going to do with this lot? I might just do my standard basic mix. Let me wash my hands again. Alrighty, let's do some normal. Let's do a sprinkle of salt, not too much on this one, and then some ground black pepper. And then what have we got? We've got some garlic powder. So we don't have much garlic powder left at the moment. Maybe I'll use fresh garlic. And then I might use a little bit of brown sweetener, like I normally would. A little bit of brown monk fruit, because I'm not using brown sugar. And then some paprika. Plenty of that, because we always like plenty of that. That's something that we know I do. And then I'll grab some fresh garlic. Alright, we'll use some fresh garlic. Again, trouble with lids. There we go. Plenty of garlic in that one. And then I might put some oil in it too, because I got no liquid in there. I could put some cowboy candy. Actually, maybe I might put a little bit of soy sauce. We'll get a bit of extra salt there with some velveting help, and a touch of olive oil. This is how most of my marinades go, which is why people ask. I can give you the ratios that are supposed to be in things, but that doesn't mean that's actually what I use. So we'll just massage this up nice, get that paprika covering it all. I was thinking I've got some jars of barbecue plum sauce still on my shelf that I had forgotten. Well, we haven't used it very much because when I cooked it, I obviously didn't cook it down quite as far as I should have, so it's quite runny in the jars, and it just doesn't work as well for dipping sauces, which is how we normally use sauce. Now, these are very paprika-y. This is probably a little bit overkill, but, you know, I don't know that you can ever have too much paprika. Let me quickly rinse my hands again, put a lid on this. I cannot find a clean lid, of course, which is why I bought some more of these disposable shower caps, which I hate because they end up getting used by default rather than finding lids, and they're plastic and they're rubbish, but at the same time I need things covered. So the barbecue plum, yes, I have jars of it that's a bit runny. I might use that as the marinade for a whole bunch of the chicken that goes in the smoker, because that would be really nice. I might have to put it on a tray with a rack so it doesn't drip all the way through my smoker, but I could even baste it with it. That plum barbecue might work really well for meatloaf basting too, actually, come to think of it. All right, so I'm going to put this in the fridge as well, and it'll all sit in there only for it's 4:15, so about an hour, and then I'll cook some up for dinner. I'm not sure entirely what I'm doing for dinner yet, but at least we'll have the chicken done. Getting late. It's 6:45, so we have been slack. Darryl cooked up, just used the 2 pans and cooked up just enough chicken for dinner tonight, and I put roast potatoes in the oven for the kids to have with it. They're just heating up now, so they will be ready shortly, and that will be dinner. That was my Sunday. Now, unfortunately, I've got the generator running in the background, so we'll have to see if that gets picked up or not. But that was Sunday here for us today. So the kids went out and fed all the animals and put hay out because it's supposed to rain for the next couple of days. So I let them take the camera with them. I'll have to check the footage before I share what they took, but we will see how we go. They're having one last swim before they have baths and come inside for the night. They've had their dinner, we've had dinner, I've had a shower. So now basically we just do inside stuff the rest of the night. I wanted to show you, we did get the rest of the decking done. We did get the rest of this decking done, which is great, but we're getting a quote for the roofing at the moment. So we still haven't got a roof on it, but the back deck is done. now, so we'll be able to open this up properly. We've got the roofing iron there to block off the geese from walking inside the door, because we've just got like insect screens there. I don't know if you can see them or if it looks like it's just wide open, but there's insect screens across the door. But eventually this whole thing will have a roof on it, and then the plan is for me to put a chair here, and then I can sit out here, do my voiceovers and, you know, all the rest of it. And the chicken pen is just, you have to excuse the mattress, we just dragged that out here. The chicken pen is right there behind us. So, and the goose pond's over here. This is where I wash out all my tie-dye and stuff. This is where we're going to set up some firewood on this metal plate with the little studio space is supposed to be out here, and all the chicken pens are over there. So, you know, it's nice and close to the animals and stuff still, which is good. So that was our day, and I will see what happens with further videos, and I will see you on the next one. Bye guys.
It started now.